everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of the Lumi Knits podcast. My name's Hayley and I'm coming to you from Wadawurrung land. I want to thank the Wadawurrung people for their ongoing custodianship of the land on which I live and work, and recognise their continuing connection to the land, skies and waterways. So if you want to find me on socials, you can find me on Instagram at lumi.knits or on Ravelry at luminitsau, all lowercase. I've got a few things to show you and a few things to talk about, so it might be maybe a fraction longer than normal, but sometimes I think that's going to happen, and I usually fall between the 20 and 30 minute mark, so we'll see. It's a beautiful spring day here in Victoria, Australia. The sun's out, the birds are singing, you're probably able to hear them in the background. I'm trying a new camera setup, so I've got a bit of a light and a bit of a microphone, so hopefully it's easy for you to hear me. If I get a bit of a pained look on my face, don't worry. I've had quite the week where I started off with a tummy ache and ended up with emergency surgery to remove my appendix. So I'm recovering from that at the moment, but feeling really good, and I don't think it'll take too long for me to be back on my feet and back in action. So that's what's been going on in my life. My kids are off with my mum and dad on a little beach holiday, which is lovely for them because I'm not a whole lot of fun at the moment. But they're having a really good time, and it's very quiet here without them, and I'm really looking forward to having them home again. So I'm going to get straight into my one and only finished object, and this is the socks that I was knitting for Father's Day. The socks that I was knitting for Father's Day got all a little bit mixed up because I originally was making a pair for my dad and then a pair for my husband, or vice versa. And I ended up having to switch over my dad's for my husband's because my dad's feet are much bigger than my husband's. Anyway, I'll talk more about that and explain why that happened once I've showed you. So this is the sock that I knit. It's just a very basic vanilla sock with a cable down one side, and I was a bit pedantic about this and made sure that the other sock has got the cable leaning the other way, so they're a nice matching pair, not just two identical socks. The exciting thing about these was I had my first go at an afterthought heel. Can you see it? It's a little gappy up here, but not too bad. I'm really happy with how it turned out. The only problem is that these were going to be for my dad. He's got a huge foot. And so I did my normal, I counted back my normal amount of foot rows from the beginning of the toe and put the afterthought heel in there. But the problem is that they came out far too short. I probably would need to do an additional 10 rows on top of his normal foot row count for them to fit him. So a little bit of last minute switcheroo. My husband's feet are a bit smaller, so these went to my husband for Father's Day, and the ones that I knit for him went to my dad, and everything worked out and everyone was happy. My husband really loved these socks. He likes cables and he likes cozy things. I did knit these in an 8-ply pure wool, DK pure wool yarn, just Cleckheat and Country, very easy to come by here in Australia. I used that same yarn to knit my Soldotna sweater, and it's a really nice yarn to work with and it washes pretty well. I'm expecting that these are probably going to felt on the bottom, and obviously they won't be as hard wearing as if they had a synthetic element, but I'm perfectly fine with that. He loves them and only really wears them as house socks anyway, so they're more like a slipper than anything. So it was just a very basic standard sock pattern with a cable down one side of each sock. So that's my finished object for today. Works in progress is going to take quite a while, and I know this because I've already recorded this podcast once, and I tried to get exciting with how I moved the podcast from my phone to my computer and accidentally deleted it, and it hadn't backed up to Google Photos, so this is my second time. So if I'm seeming extra smooth, it's because I've already had a practice go. So as I said, I have quite a few works in progress and things that I want to talk about, so I'm going to dive straight into that. I'm still working on the Sonder sweater for my husband. This has taken a serious backseat to my field sweater, and it's just because of the yarn. The Sonder, the yarn is nice colours and everything, but it just doesn't have the same tactile, beautiful squishiness of the yarn that I'm using for my field sweater. So I've made no progress on that. I'm still on working in the round on the body and nothing to show or report, unfortunately. I was going to try and have it done for his birthday in October. If I really tried, I could probably do it. I probably should, I suppose. But it's really hard because, where is my field sweater? The field sweater that I'm knitting is by Camilla Vad. You've probably seen the pattern, heard about the pattern because it's everywhere. And it is so beautiful. Oh, the colour is just... Now, I'm going to preface because I talk a lot about this sweater, and as much as I love the design, it's very beautiful. The first time I saw it, I knew that it was going to be something that I'd knit. It's been outshone for me by the yarn that I'm knitting it on. So I didn't particularly enjoy knitting the yoke. It was very fiddly, quite tedious, very long. The effect obviously is worth every second that it took, because look at those grains. They just look lovely. They remind me of wisteria, and I love wisteria. So yeah, it's just gorgeous. So that part's great. And now I am on to, I have split for sleeves here. But we did have a little drama with this, which is exciting. So I'm knitting this in a size 5, which is pretty much my standard size. I think about maybe 8 centimeters of positive ease. My gauge was a little off, so maybe a little less. Anyway, I knit happily on a size 5. All my pattern repeats worked out well. Everything's spaced evenly. So I didn't actually bother counting my stitches at all, because I figured if my stitch count was out, then the pattern would be working properly. So I happily finished the work on the yoke and knit the stockinette section down towards where I was going to split for sleeves. Came to there, put in the sleeves on the holders, and got to the right count and found that I had an additional 12 stitches on my needle that were unaccounted for. I went back, I checked everything. I checked to make sure I had the right amount on the holders. I checked to make sure that there was the right amount in the back and in the sides. Everything was right. I have just somehow managed to acquire an extra 12 stitches, which really freaked me out, because the thought of redoing that yoke is a nightmare to me. I do not want to do it again. Not for a long time. I probably will knit it again because it's beautiful, but not for a long time. And I went through and I started looking at the pattern, trying to work out where I went wrong. I don't know where I went wrong, but luckily I did realize that the extra 12 stitches that I have just put me up to a size 6. So I've pulled back where I split for sleeves, and instead of continuing in a size 5, I'm just going to continue with a size 6. I was worried this would be too much in the body, but given my smaller my gauge, I don't know if it's smaller, I don't know if it's larger, I don't understand. It's difficult. I'm not mathematically minded at all. All I know is that my stitch gauge was 21, the pattern calls for 20, so that tells me that it's going to come out slightly smaller than what it should, which is fine, because now I'm knitting a size 6, the ease will probably be good. And also I was talking to my sister, she's not a knitter, but she's a sewist, and we were talking about garment construction. She understands it really well, and she said actually probably for our body shape, because we have a similar body shape, a more fitted yoke and a larger body would not be a bad thing. It would probably be sort of what we go for anyway when we're choosing garments. So I'm going to continue with that very happily, knitting in the round, and it's going to be a joy. And the reason it's going to be a joy is because of the yarn I'm using, and this is why every other project that I'm working on is just can't compare. I'm going to grab one of the skeins from behind me. So I'm knitting the field sweater on Great Ocean Road Woollen Mills La Bella Honeycomb. It's a alpaca blend, which is exactly what I wanted. I wanted something with alpaca. I wanted that snuggly, squishy feel, but I didn't want straight alpaca because I didn't want it to lose its shape given the amount of work I was putting into it. So it's in this lovely caramel colorway. You can't really tell because of the lighting, I think, but it's a beautiful sort of caramelly color, and I'm just smitten with this yarn. It is so lovely, so soft, so squishy, so smooth. It's an absolute joy to work with. Every stitch I make I love because it is just gorgeous yarn. And that is why it's so hard for me to work on anything else, especially the Sonder sweater, because that's made just with a commercial pure wool, and it's just a bit prickly and not as smooth, not as soft, and not as enjoyable to work on. I think I'm probably spoilt for yarns from now on because this is the standard that I want to work with. It is just beautiful. So that is my field sweater and the little dilemma that I've had with that. But I'm feeling confident that we can move forward. Sorry, just going to lean over and pop that down. I'm feeling confident that we can move forward in a positive way with a size 5 yoke and a size 6 body and sleeves. I like my garments a little oversized anyway. I don't like anything too tight. So I think it's going to work out just fine. The next thing I wanted to show you, I don't think I've shown on the podcast before. This is a little bit of a weird project. The yarn was my grandmother's, and my grandmother died when I was 13 and I'm 41. So 28 years ago. And I don't know how or why I ended up with the yarn because I was 13. I wasn't exactly super into fibre crafts at that point. But anyway, this yarn somehow came to me. It's a very 80s yarn. It is, I think it's a linen blend, but I don't have the ball bands or anything like that. But I think I may have had one and it was a Sonder linen cotton. And I didn't have a whole lot of it, and I thought it would be nice to make a garment just to sort of, I don't know, hug my grandma. So I decided to make a nice light summer top. And I was really into raglan at that time. It's been probably maybe a year since I've worked on this. So it's a very basic self-drafted raglan t-shirt. It's been sitting on my shelf, as I said, for a long time. And all it required was for me to take one sleeve off the waist yarn and knit 2 rows and then bind it off for it to be what I thought was going to be finished. And it's just been sitting there, like literally 10 minutes of work it took for me to do that sleeve. And it's now finished, but I don't think it's actually finished. I think I'm going to have to do some things on the edges, on the sleeves, neck and hem. So I'm going to hold it up, but it's going to be hard to get an idea of it. So I'm just going to go up really slowly. I feel like I'm playing peekaboo with a baby. Hi. So as you can see, because of the way I bound off, it's quite curly, and it's the same on the sleeves and the hem. It's got sort of lacy raglan increases, and I really love the way they look, and it feels really nice too. This is a really textured, soft knit, and I think it's going to be beautiful over dresses and singlets over summer. And what I'm thinking of doing is, and I'm going to just test it on a sleeve because I don't want to commit to anything really large. I've got this white, this is just a Bendigo Woollen Mills 4-ply. I'm not sure if it's luxury. I bought it a long time ago when I first started knitting, but it matches the white in this really nicely. And I thought I might just do an I-cord edging on all of the edges. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to start with a sleeve, and if I like it, I'll do the rest. Otherwise, I might do some ribbing just using this. They're 2 different fibres, but as I said, this is kind of a bit of a weird project that I don't know that it's going to get a lot of wear, but it's going to be something that's special to me. So I want to make sure that it's finished and that I feel that it's complete. And I think that this yarn around the edges will be really nice. So that's something that I'll be working on in the future as well. I've got this beanie, and I started it, but it has no stitch marker, and I don't have the pattern, so I've got no idea where I'm up to. It seems to have, you can't really see it because it's black, it's got some cabling in it. I know the name of the pattern because it's in my Ravelry, but I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it back to the ribbing, and then I'm going to start a different beanie pattern, just because I was finding it hard with the black, knowing where I was at in the pattern, and it was a bit confusing. So I think I'm going to try something a little more simple with that. So that's another work in progress. What do we have here? Oh, my Ruffle Socks. Again, I can never remember what I've talked about in previous podcasts, but the Ruffle Socks by Petit Knit, I knit a pair of these for my sister in a very similar yarn, and they were beautiful. And so I came across Yarns by the Bay, who are based in Melbourne, which is not that far from me. Her colorways are absolutely gorgeous, and she has this one called Sweet Dreams, and it doesn't look as nice on camera as what it does in person. It's a lot warmer, I think. In person it looks very sort of clinical, I guess, on camera. Anyway, the sock yarn is called Sweet Dream. The colorway is called Sweet Dreams, and it's a Superwash sock yarn. And I really wanted a pair because it's similar to the colorway that I did for my sister. So I had started these a long time ago, ages ago, and it's just been my travel knit. It's just a basic fish lips kiss heel I've put in there, the ruffle at the top, and just a rounded toe, I guess. But I'm working on the second one of those, and when I was in hospital I had quite a good amount of time to get some of the foot done. So I think I was up to the heel when I went into hospital, and then by the time I came out I was here, and I think I've probably got about 15 rows to go, and then I'll do the toe, and then I'll be finished. They're the cutest little socks. They're so nice, but I don't think I'll knit them again because I really hate doing the ruffle and the cuff. They look great, but they're too fiddly for me, because I work on the 9-inch circulars. It's just a real pain to sort of switch between the needles and that kind of thing. Although now that I've got my interchangeable circulars, it might be better. Who knows? It'll take a lot for me to knit these again because there's other patterns that I want to knit instead. But anyway, I think that they look adorable, and I can't wait till they're finished and I can wear them. So they are the Ruffle Socks by Petit Knit. And for someone who's got so many whips, you know that I had no business casting anything on, because we're still not talking about what's in the corner over there. But I did. I have got this Henrietta yarn by Great Ocean Road Woollen Mills that I picked up at their factory shop. It was a 150 gram ball. It's a 4-ply, and I thought it would be nice to do something really simple with it. I was going to do another Crawford because I love it so much and it's gotten a lot of wear, but I decided to that I didn't have anything that really another yarn that would go with it that would look good. So I decided to do something really basic, and this is called The Simple Thing by Melina Brell. It is very similar to the Sophie scarf, but this was actually around before the Sophie scarf. So it's just a garter stitch with an I-cord edge, and I'm just going to knit until I'm 75 grams in, and then I'm going to knit till I'm 75 grams out, and it'll be finished, and it'll be lovely and squishy and fluffy and warm. I don't know if you can quite see the little fuzz that's on this, but it's there and it's beautiful, and it's going to be a really lovely winter scarf. So that's one that I'm just going to pick up and put down as the mood takes me. Apart from my husband's jumper, none of my whips have deadlines. I live on the edge when it comes to deadlines, so we'll see what happens with that. If I decide to give it a red hot go and get it done in a month, the Sonder, then maybe I will, but I don't like the chances there. I do have a sewing whip that's related to knitting, so knitters, don't freak out here. I have got a bunch of fabric, like sort of leftovers and that kind of thing, and I got it in my head that I really wanted to make some project bags. So I've cut out 4 project bags, and the pattern I use is called the Kato project bag by Kandou Crafts on Etsy. Everything I mention will be in the show notes, so don't like rewind or anything like that if you wanted to get the name of that project bag. I'll put it in the show notes. It's a paid for pattern and it is fantastic. It's very, like, it's something you could figure out by yourself, but it's so step by step and it just saves a lot of messing around. And I've made it before. I think this one is a Kandou, a Kato project bag, and this is really handy. It's perfect for socks and sort of smaller projects. The one that I'm making, I think, is the next size up. Yeah, so anyway, I've cut out 4 of those. I've got 2 in this fabric, which is just kind of like a beautiful grey with some botanicals on it in black lines. I've given it, just because I didn't have anything else on hand, it's got a black leather grab handle and grey twill accents, and the lining is going to be grey twill as well. So I've got 2 of these on the go, and when I finish those I'm going to switch the colour thread in my machine, and I'm making 2 out of this fabric, which I originally bought to make a pair of pants, but it's not going to work because there is no physical way on earth that I'm going to be able to match the pattern in the pants because they're panelled. So I've had to abandon that idea, and I'm just going to make some project bags, maybe a little skirt for my daughter, something like that. But anyway, I really love this. It's so bright and cheery, and it's got that sort of 90s vibe to it that I love. So those ones are going to look great too. Now with the project bags, obviously I do not need 4 project bags. I do have spare project bags on there. I got it in my head that I wanted to make them. So I'm thinking that when I have finished the project bags that I might do a little giveaway. I also make my own stitch markers, and the charms that I get usually come, you know, in packs of between 10 and 20. So I've got more stitch markers than a person would ever need. So I'm thinking that maybe next episode, if I'm done with the sewing, I am going to run a little giveaway of a project bag and some stitch markers. So it won't be anything like lovely hand-dyed yarn or anything like that, because I'm a yarn piggy and I want to keep the yarn that I've got. But yeah, what do you think? Is that a good idea? Is anyone interested in that? Would anyone want a project bag and stitch markers? Let me know in the comments. Right, so that is all my whips. I've got a little cheat sheet here in front of me, which is why I keep sort of peering downwards, and I've got backup notes beside me. So if you're wondering why my eyes are darting all over the place, it's because I'm trying to look at the camera, but then I get distracted by what I can see, and then I've got 2 lots of notes going on, and that's a lot for my brain to process. So upcoming plans. I'm super excited that Christopher from Flannel and Pearls, who I love, is going to be running a Mitt-a-Long in October. So I love knitting mitts, I love wearing mitts, but we're coming into spring here in Australia, so we are in spring and the weather's really warm, so I'm not going to be loving wearing mitts for, you know, probably a good 9 months or so, but that's okay. I can still knit them, and then when winter comes I'll be really prepared, which will be great. So I definitely want to join in that Mitt-a-Long, and I've been trawling Ravelry. I've made like a little you know, Ravelry group of patterns. I can't remember what that's called, bundle, a Ravelry bundle of all the potential patterns that I might use, and it just seems like a really fun little thing because I'm not doing the West Knits Knit-a-Long this October. I thought this was a nice compromise. So I did it in 2021. I intended on doing it in 2022. This is the West Knits Knit-a-Long, and I really struggled in 2022, and I just decided that was it for me. I was putting too much pressure on myself to keep up, and there's no way I can keep up. No way. It's not humanly possible for me. I've got lots going on in my life, and keeping up with that level of knitting is just not possible, especially because I am not a monogamous knitter, as you would have seen from my whips. So yes, the Flannel and Pearls Mitt-a-Long is going to be my replacement for the Stephen West Mystery Knit-a-Long, and I'm really excited about it, and I can't wait to choose a pattern. If you're going to do the Mitt-a-Long, let me know. I would really love to see what pattern you're making or what you're thinking about doing for it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So very much looking forward to that. I forgot to mention last podcast episode, something else that's super exciting. I feel like I'm jumping out of my skin here. I've got so many exciting things happening. Here in Ballarat, where I live, we're fortunate enough to have a place called the Rare Trade Centre, where they sort of recognise and celebrate traditional art forms and traditional skills and things like that. So they offer a lot of workshops. So they do everything from, you know, jewellery making, silversmithing, wood turning and, you know, making spoons out of wood, to spinning. And I'm not sure if you remember, but ages ago, probably well over a year ago, I bought a spinning wheel, a secondhand spinning wheel that needed a little bit of attention. And I've bought all the parts for it and it's still sitting there and I haven't fixed it up yet. It doesn't require a lot. It's just changing a few things over and getting a few things working. And I thought that this spinning workshop would be a really great way for me to sort of get going with that. So the first time I tried to sign up for it, it was sold out. And so I've been waiting for the next one to come up and it's happening in November. So I absolutely can't wait for that spinning workshop. I've got everything I need to get spinning here. I've got the fibre, I've got the wheel, I've got the parts for the wheel, I've got the bobbins. I just haven't gotten around to it. I've even got a book about how to spin. It's over there somewhere. So I'm really excited about that. That's, I think, the 11th of November. It's a full day on Saturday. So yeah, that's also coming up in my world. Just trying to think what else has been happening. It actually hasn't been that long since my last podcast. So I feel like to get to this point and still be talking, I'm doing pretty well. I think that's about it. I'm still trying to think of a project for this gorgeous yarn that I got at Bendigo, the Fluff and Nonsense Tibetan Singles. I contacted Fluff and Nonsense to see if they had the same colorway and they don't, but she said that it would, if I wanted it, she has it in a different dye lot, but it would be okay if I alternated skeins, which would be all right, but I don't know how to do that and I'm a bit scared. So anyway, I'm going to find something to do with this. If you've got any suggestions, let me know. I also had a really good suggestion for my mohair minis. The Krabby Chipmunk on Instagram suggested that I do the Rocket Tee by Tana Slavely, and I've never knit any of her patterns before, but the Rocket Tee looks really, really nice, and I'm leaning towards it because I think it will be nice and mermaidy. So fuzzy, so pretty. So that's on the cards as well. I'm going to stop there because I can see on my timer that I'm getting up to the 30-minute mark, and that's well and truly enough for me. Well, it's 28, but that's getting close to 30. And also I think my lunch is nearly ready because I can smell it and it smells great. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope that you are getting to do the things you love to do with the people you love to do them with. And until next time, have a great time. I will talk to you soon. Bye.